Okay, hopefully I counted backwards long enough. I didn't lose my train of thought, but hopefully that was long enough. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to A Coffee with Carla. This morning we are honored to have our guest, who is Lori Dengler. Thank you, Lori, for joining us. And thank you, everybody, for joining us as well. And I want to say, before we get started, thank you for all the amazing birthday wishes. You guys are awesome. It was a great way to get my day going. So, hi, Lori.
Hello, and happy birthday to you. Thank you for sharing your birthday with me this morning.
Yeah, well, I figured, you know what, people pleasing and boundaries is a good topic for my birthday because I need that gift. I need the insights. So, yeah, so I'm going to let you go ahead and introduce yourself and let people know who you are and what you do and where they can find you. And I'll be sharing
All the things.
all the things.
Okay, well, as you said, I'm Lori Dengler. I was actually just trying to recall how I even connected with you, Carla. I couldn't tell you. It was just probably through different channels, obviously online. We've spoke before. That seems
Yes,
like
we
forever
have.
ago.
Yep.
So I am a coach. Lotus Coaching is my business page on Facebook, and I play mostly in there and Instagram. So that's where you can find me.
Right.
What else do I need to tell you? I'm just here today.
Yeah, I remember how we got connected. It was when Noreen and the girls, Sheila and Corey and Shelly, were here in Vancouver.
Oh, right. And I
It
just
was
happened
then,
to be. Yeah.
yeah, and you messaged me about like social media stuff. So yeah, I think that's the first time that that's how we connected, probably like through Noreen, obviously, I think. So
Very
yeah,
well. Yeah.
yeah. How did you get started in coaching? Let's
Well,
just get it, like, let's go hard here.
sure, let's do it. All right. So I have always been, I'm going to actually refer to myself as a little bit of a health nut, always been one.
Yeah.
And so many, many years ago, I was going to go into nutrition, and sort of the life path has switched to, a little bit in the meantime. So I was going to go into health coaching, which I did. I
Yeah.
ultimately started out health coaching. And what I realized in that was, even if it's your health or no matter what it is, it always came back to the same sort of root beliefs and what we do and whatnot. So I kind of expanded beyond that. And I actually got my master's in life coaching, transformational coaching. There's a bunch of different things, but so that
wow.
It was just always that nudge, right? Like it was just, yeah, you need to do this. And I thought about it for quite a while before I officially just jumped in, but I did jump in and never looked back since. No, it's been wonderful.
I didn't know you had a master's in coaching.
The mastery of coaching, yeah. Yeah, so I took a few years of schooling for that.
I bet it did. I bet it did. Well, I'm glad you are here. And I know we were doing a little bit of social media stuff, and you've been on A Coffee with Carla a couple of times, I guess.
Yes.
Before, which is on the YouTube channel, everybody. So go over there and check it out.
Yeah.
And you gave me a coaching session.
Right. I forgot.
Yeah.
Yes, we did. We did one. Yeah.
It was, I think, and I had said this before, I was so nervous, which
really?
I find was kind of weird because I'm like, I love all this stuff and it's kind of my passion and whatever. And then then of course, when it came, it had to be about me. I was like, oh, okay.
Well, that's what it's about.
I'm not sure if I like this. It's easy to put it out there for other people, but so I was really nervous, and I remember thinking, I'm just gonna not do it. I'm just gonna cancel, and I did it anyways, and it was amazing. Like,
yes,
I didn't really understand how it worked with coaching, and that was one of the most powerful, however long we were on the phone for, probably longer than we should have been. I probably kept you on there too long.
No,
it was incredibly helpful.
Oh, that's great to hear.
Yeah.
And that's just in itself, that's what lights me up about the whole coaching thing, is to hear that afterwards. And all I do is ask the questions and you do the work. You come up with the answers, what's best for you. And that is the beauty of it. It's just when you see that potential in, what that conversation even was, right? So it's just awesome.
Yeah.
I love
mean,
it.
and recently you actually sent me some helpful stuff too. I had done a video that I was like it was a little emotional in, and you sent me some information and like things to like do this next time and try this, and it was super helpful.
Oh,
Like
good.
again, it's sometimes it's just that little thing and it's like,
Yeah.
holy smokes, like
Yeah.
that's powerful stuff. So
it is very powerful stuff, and it's just to see, just to be a part of somebody else's experience is incredible. It really is, and that just makes it just unique, and everybody's unique experience is quite different, right? So
right.
that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
And it was, that video you're talking about, I just happened to catch it too, just by chance, and it was just like, yes. So I remember reaching out to you that day too. Yeah.
Yeah. No, and thank you for that, because it did stuff that you gave me was very helpful. So I appreciate it. So
Well,
you also do, I don't want to say this wrong. Is it kettlebell? What is that you do? Because I follow that
yeah.
too.
Yeah, no, okay. So it's kettlebell kickboxing. So it combines like the Russian kettlebells, like the weights, with martial arts motions. And so it's the combination of the two together. And what got me going on that is, again, a little bit of a health nut, always kind of been my life path, right? And so I took a class not knowing what the heck it was either. And I just loved it right away. And it very strongly stands behind like a strong body, mind, spirit. Like it's just everything combined into one package. So works a lot of mobility, and as we get older we know that kind of declines, so
yes, it does. Yeah, it looks really awesome. And I always like when you post it, you're going to have a class, because you do the classes there, you do them in Watchers.
Yes. Yeah. So I have a class, and then I've been doing a lot of, kind of since late spring over the summer, I've been doing a lot of personal one-on-one trainings, or like a 2 or 3 people at a time kind of thing. Small group together, and people really enjoy that too, because not everybody wants to go work out in front of people either. So
yeah.
Plus I get, I get to work closely in relation with them as well, as far as what their needs are, what their body needs are, mobility and whatnot. So yeah,
that's very
all
cool.
sorts of goodness.
Yeah, I know. I'm always like, dang, I wish I lived closer. I'd go to that in a heartbeat. I always, every time you post you're having a class, I'm like, I would go.
We'll have to do one online one day.
We could, yes. You know what? I think my brother-in-law has one of those, so I could do that.
There you
The
go.
weight thing. So
yeah, for sure.
All right. So let's go deep into people pleasing and boundaries, because that's what we're here to chat about today. So
it sure is.
oh boy. I know, like when we did last week, we did forgiveness, and it was interesting because it was after that live, the amount of people that came and like messaged and just talked about it was like, holy smokes. It was like it really went deep with people. And I think this topic, people pleasing, will be a part of it, but I think it's the boundaries part that's going to be the one that we all need probably more than anything, especially in these kind of COVID times, and like you're kind of all cramped together, and how do you find your own space, and all that stuff. But I guess we can start with people pleasing, and kind of what do you think what is the definition, or what is people pleasing?
I don't know if I have an exact definition. I think I think in general, kind of all are familiar with the terminology people pleasing, and I agree that it's definitely related to boundaries, personal boundaries. And I'm sure everybody to some degree is guilty of people pleasing. I guess the biggest thing in that is sometimes I think where a lot of people find this happening is they just do it to avoid conflict, right? Just to keep the peace, just agree with whatever is going on, because they want to cause a riff with anything, right? Like it's just
Right.
let's keep the peace, go ahead, you do whatever you want, I'll just follow along kind of thing, right? And
Yeah.
that's an easy one to fall into, but it does go deeper than that too. It can come stemming from childhood, as far as just even with your parents, right? Like, I don't want to tick my parents off, so I'm just going to go along with what they are saying here. I don't want to put myself in a position of getting in trouble, so you just you kind of can grow habits along the way, and just certain
Right.
experiences you had even, right? So I think the biggest thing that happens when we get stuck into people pleasing is we kind of lose ourselves. Like, we lose that integrity with ourselves because we aren't honoring kind of our own values, right? So we just essentially kind of get lost in that. And in turn, what happens often is we kind of let ourselves down. So we get a little resentful, and then we kind of are miserable. And, so does that make sense? Like, it just,
Yes.
if you've experienced it, I know I have once or twice or more in the past too, right? Like, just, it's being able to catch yourself in it and have the awareness of it sometimes too. And I think a lot of people know when they're caught in that cycle of it. I think they feel like they know what's going on because they can feel it in their bodies, right?
Yeah.
They know when they're off or they're just going along with something. So yeah, what about your thoughts?
Well, I think too, it's also that feeling that you have to, like, if you're saying, if you get up enough courage and bravery, because it takes that sometimes to say no to somebody.
Yes.
when you don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Not explaining why.
That's the biggest one right there. It's
And
like a no is
no is a complete sentence. Yeah. And it's one of those things where it's like, I've had to really work hard on that, because it's like, no, I really don't want to do that thing. And then I used to go into this whole great big long, like, it would be really good, but I got, this and this, and I'm sorry, and da 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 da, and I'd make up all these things, and it was like, and then I'd send a message and be like, that doesn't feel good, like,
yes.
But it's that for me, it is that fear of disappointment. Like, that person's going to be pissed off at me, and now they're not going to like me anymore. Like, that is a very deep rooted thing in me. And I've had to work very hard on that, because I did allow that to take over my life, and it nearly destroyed me. So it's taken a lot of work to get. I'm not 100% at it by any means, but it does take a lot of work.
Well, it does. And for you to have that awareness and catch yourself when you are kind of falling into that pattern, that's a huge deal, Carly. You need to give yourself a pat on the back for that.
Well, it's been in the last couple of weeks too. I've had a couple of situations where whether it's been a message or a comment or whatever, and I've started to fall into that, where it's, they've kind of come at me like in a certain way, and I went to explain myself, which I don't need to do that.
No.
And I went back and I was like, I am not sending that. Deleted it and just said, thanks again for, that reminder, or thanks again for that, whatever they did for me. And that's why I was messaging them, was thanking them for the thing. And then I got this weird response back, and it was like, it's kind of when people are uncomfortable, sometimes they make like a sarcastic, like, oh, well, and I've done that so many times where it's like somebody will come at me and say something and I don't know how to respond. It's like, I don't know how to answer that. Because I don't want to sound like I'm being arrogant. Oh, well, thank you,
Yes, because sometimes our first answer is out of reaction mode, right? You don't always want to come from that space. So even just stepping away from it, letting it just kind of go for a few minutes and then coming back to it when you want to respond, not, react. So that's a huge deal too. And then you'll kind of know, it comes to you sort of in the sense, what is the proper way I can respond to this, and in what's best for me in that too, right?
Right. And I think too, like, the people pleasing thing is, for me anyways, it is that fight or flight thing. So I would rather, and again, from my own experience, I would rather that person be happy and content and like all of that, I can sit there and go along with any, like I've always been that way, is just go with the flow, go with the flow, go with the flow.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
sometimes I don't want to go with the flow. And so
And
to
there it is.
stand up, yeah, and to stand up and go, you know what, I don't actually want to go. Like, I don't want to do that thing. You guys go ahead.
Yeah.
I don't want to, because I really just don't.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's staying with integrity to that. And, you know, a great question you can ask yourself when you're starting to feel that come up is, what is right for me in this moment now? You know, what is going to feel the best in this situation for me to stay in integrity with myself in this very moment. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with being easygoing. I'm one of those people too. It's like, whatever, sure. Yeah. I am easygoing. But then I do know when it's the fine line of, okay, nope, that's not for me. And sticking to that, right? Sticking to and honoring that about yourself.
Yeah. It's those times when you do it, when you feel like it's really, you don't want to do that, or you don't want to, you know, I guess in this day and age now, it would be different than when my kids were little, you know, you'd get invited to like a mummy's group or like some of those things.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, those are awesome. I am not one of those people who enjoy those things. So it was like, I would go like, I remember, you know, putting myself in positions where like I'd go and attend some kind of a class I didn't want to go to, but you gotta come, blah, 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 you know, the whole thing. And it was like, I don't want to be here. And it made me miserable.
Yes. Well, and sometimes I think too, in a situation like that, like you said, in a mommy's group or whatnot that you're invited to with other people, is it kind of goes into that whole rejection thing too. It's like, well, we don't want to be rejected. That as a human nature is kind of a tough spot. I mean, it's good for us to figure out what that is for us, but you know, we don't want to be rejected. So, okay, let's just go along with it. And so we want to feel like we belong, right? So now please everybody else but our own self.
Yeah. And that's when I see a lot of like young moms now. I see them, you know, that I'm connected to on different platforms and stuff. And I really commend them because they really, a lot of them do, like they do their, like they stay true to themselves. They are not trying to fit in or, you know, be a part of that thing. They just do their own thing and they stand strong in it. And that's when I wish we had social media for certain things way back when, because there was no place you could just go and not necessarily be there in person, but you could be in a group and just be a part of it. You don't have to say anything, but you can get that information and kind of be a part of it, right? Whereas in person, and then you get into the whole comparison thing and all, there's like, it all
that's
connects,
a whole nother conversation.
It's a whole nother conversation, but it's those two, I think a lot of them have access to a lot more tools than we did, which I think it can be a very good thing.
Yeah, for sure. Yes. Yeah. And if you go, and I mean, like you had said, if you were to go along with it, you end up depleting your own energy. And it's almost like you go with that, you know, what's the saying, you fill your own cup up first. Or if you're on the airplane and they give you the demo of the face oxygen masks, you do yours and then somebody else's. Right. Well, you have to reserve your own energy in order to be there for another person fully and completely, right? So if you're just people pleasing to keep that person happy, you're going to slowly get depleted and your cup's empty, your energy is gone. You're not going to be the best person you can be either in that sense, right? So that's where the boundaries piece comes in, is to even know your boundaries and where your healthy boundaries are. And boundaries aren't to keep those people out, it's just to keep yourself preserved, your energy preserved, your cup filled, right? And just knowing what those healthy boundaries are and establishing those. And they don't have to be like a fine line in the sand, right? You can, I think you grow with them as you grow older too. Right.
And like Penny Sundquist said, she said, respond versus react. love this. And
Yes.
I think that's probably one of the biggest things. When you get that like feeling, or I guess the buzzword is a trigger, right?
Yes.
If you can catch that before it comes out of here.
Yes.
I've practiced very hard in the last year doing like when I can feel myself starting to get like up,
Yeah.
breathe, like
Yes.
take in that
Breathe.
deep breath, because
Yeah.
it gives you that moment to kind of, before it starts flowing,
Breathe.
calm.
Yes.
Yeah. And
And
it's
we
hard
can
to do.
it just that, again, it's that awareness, right? And you can access that any time of the day, in any moment, if you, even the sense of people pleasing, right? If you catch yourself into, oh, I'm just going to go along with it to keep peace, then take those breaths, take what's needed, and you kind of come back to centering into yourself and going, no, what's important in this moment now?
Yeah.
And, how can I keep my own energy here? So,
Right.
yeah.
So for somebody who is kind of deep in people pleasing, and they're going to start to stand up and for themselves, they're going to start saying yes to themselves. When you start doing that, I think the first time you ever do that for yourself, there's this huge feeling of guilt.
Yes. Yeah.
What are some tools people can use to kind of combat that or overcome that, so they don't slide backwards into, oh, I don't like that feeling, so I'm going to go back to my old ways? What are some tools people can use?
Well, I think the biggest thing is to, I guess, not fall into being like judgmental towards yourself, right? If all of a sudden you do start to feel guilt, being like okay with that, and knowing that it's going to come up when you start to say no, and just being okay with that. And it means nothing about, that person. You don't have to feel guilty for letting that person down, because the opposite of that is, well, feeling guilty for letting yourself down, right? So just being very gentle, I think, in that process, and letting go of the guilt and saying, you know what, I feel guilty, but that's okay, because I'm preserving who I am and what I need right now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because that sense of guilt, and I think it depends. Sometimes it's more, that feeling comes more with who the person is you're saying no to, or you're setting that boundary with.
Yes.
So if it's somebody that's very close, like a family member that you're very close with, is going to feel a lot different than, an acquaintance or a coworker, or, that type of a relationship. I think it's going to be harder.
Yes. Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
And it might take a little bit for those boundaries to sort of be established. And, I think they will pick up on that too. You know, if they want to place the guilt on you, that's the other side of that too, is when I say it wasn't about them, but if they're the type of person that wants to place the guilt on you, it's being strong enough in your own boundaries just to say no, like, this is about me, I just can't do that right now. It's standing up for yourself in a sense, with that gentleness, and just, I guess, being assertive, not not super aggressive by any means, but
Yeah. So
it's going to be hard.
how would you suggest, or what would people do to start setting up boundaries? And I think probably a good start would be with family members, because
Yeah.
we all love our families, but there are times when there needs to be boundaries, just with different relationships. And that can go into various things. Like there could be various dynamics in every family. It's going to be different, right?
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Yeah.
how does a person start setting a boundary with somebody that they love very much, but they need to set up a boundary because that person is sucking the life, like the energy out of them? We talked about this last week. We also, it's how we've taught people to treat us.
Yes.
Right. So now it's correcting that behavior.
Yeah. And that
And
takes a lot of courage.
it does. It
Yeah.
does. So
Yeah.
what are some suggestions for people who need to set some boundaries, but they're scared out of their minds to do that?
Right. Ooh, that's a great question, Carla. I don't know if I have suggestions or not. Well, like I said, it's going to take some courage. And I think the first step is just having that awareness in what those boundaries even are. I mean, I can't tell anybody what they are. They have to come up with those themselves. And it might just take sitting with that for a bit, just going, okay, what is my boundary, and where are the places, or what are the things that are coming up for me that I'm feeling like this is kind of depleting me, right? And just having that awareness, making note of it, and then just trying to shift out of that, going, okay, well, how can I bring that awareness to this person? And just, I'm just trying to think, if you come up into a certain situation, you can just say simply, this is not for me right now, and explain. You don't, not really explain in the sense that you had said before, but just explain, like, this isn't for me right now. I just can't. It's about me. It's not about you. And, making that very, very clear, it's not, it's about me, not you. And I think that helps too. And it's just having those tough conversations sometimes as well, and just letting it be known. It's like, no, I just can't. I don't know if that makes sense. I'm just blowing up
no,
my head,
that helps. Is giving, so if you're like having a conversation via messenger or text or WhatsApp or any of those things, you get a message, is no response a boundary, or is it avoiding the conversation?
I don't know how to respond to that, Carla, because no response is a response as well, a very truthful one. But if you have respect for the other person, obviously you're going to want to have some response, right?
Yeah.
So I guess just a response in what's true to you in that moment. Like I said before, coming back to that integrity. How can I respond to this and be truthful to myself?
Yeah, because I've had that before, where it's like, I don't know how to respond to this.
Yeah.
I don't know how to respond. Like, I don't want to come out being mad. I'm feeling mad, but I don't want to engage in that back and forth, blah, blah. So sometimes I have just not responded, because it's like, I don't know what to say, so I'm not responding.
Okay. Yeah.
And just kind of let it go. And then, or any other time I've had that happen, somebody comes at me and is like saying stuff that's not great. And I've responded by just saying, thank you for your input. I appreciate your understanding.
Yes.
And let it go.
Great response.
Because if the minute you engage in that battle,
yes,
it's
not a good place to be. It is. It's over. You've sucked yourself in, and it's now a whole different game, I guess. Essentially, it's not a game, but you're going to suck your energy out, and you're going to engage in that, and it's just going to end up in negative, and your feelings are just going to, it's just not a good place to go, right? It's just, you can back away and just say, you know what, their energy is not mine. I can choose not to engage, and just be polite in my response. And like you said, let it go. Let it go.
Yeah. And that's a very key thing, what you said. Their energy is not about you. It's about them. Yes. Their response is about them.
Yes.
And I think for people pleasers, we turn that into, oh God, that's my fault that they're reacting that way. Yes, I'm sorry I made you mad. I'm sorry I did that because I didn't mean to upset you. Like, been there,
exactly. So I know, yes, that is a huge deal, is kind of just coming through with that shift and going, okay, that is them, this is me, right? Their energy is not mine. I think we talked about that in the past a little bit. Right?
And I think too, with people who are in a, like right in the moment, if they're agitated or mad or upset or anything, it's understanding that you don't need to go in and fix that for them.
Yes, right.
Which is
that's on them.
Very guilty. Very guilty of that one.
That is a people-pleasing thing.
I've really, again, that's a thing that I've, you see somebody will say something and it's like this horrible and you think, oh, like, how can I help you? Like, what do you need? Let me help you fix that. And it's like, it becomes you take the problem on more than they take it on.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It doesn't work.
No, it doesn't work. Is right.
It does not work.
No, that is, like you said, that is on them to fix, not you to, and then you take all of that on, and yeah, it's a cycle.
It is a cycle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think that these things are like people pleasing and not setting boundaries and all those things? Do you think those are things that we've learned as kids in our situations growing up, or is it bad behaviors we've just picked up on? Because when we're kids, I don't think we start out being, well, mind you, I guess you don't want to disappoint your parents, like you were saying.
That not in everybody's situation, but that can
Yeah.
definitely be the case for sure.
Right.
Yeah. So it just develops over time, and we just carry that with us. We have an experience at a young age, and it carries with us for sure.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be just a young age. It can happen when we're older as well.
Mm-hmm.
People you meet up with along the way.
So how would you say in a relationship, like spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, boyfriend, however, in a romantic relationship, how do you set boundaries with that person in your life?
That's a tough question.
It is.
Okay, no, move on. No, just kidding.
Next question, please.
Yeah. Can I answer the next one? No. Well, I think same thing as when you were talking about general family members. I think the person will know what their boundaries are, having those awarenesses, and the person you're with has boundaries too. And I think it's just having kind of awareness of what their boundaries are as well. And again, conversation is beautiful too. And it's not something you have to discuss all the time, right?
Right.
But you're going to know if a boundary is crossed by your emotion, the way you feel. Like you had said, that big word is trigger.
Yeah.
So you're going to know what your boundaries are. And, if say something happens and it's crossed, then you just go for next time. This is how I want to show up in this. And, for yourself. And I guess you can make it known that's how you're going to show up. Right. And hopefully they respect you enough to respect your boundaries.
Right. Well, and too, with women, I think it's hard. I guess I shouldn't generalize as women, but it's, to sometimes stand our ground in that relationship and say, like, this is what I need. It's very hard. It's really hard to do.
Especially if you get into being a mother, right? Now you've got little ones to look after. And that is very, I think in any, because you're a caregiver and your main priority is the health and well-being of those kids as well. And so it's easy to take on that, okay, I'm just going to put everybody else first and myself last.
Yes.
And that can go into, at the end of the day, you're just crawling into bed depleted 100%. But to even take 5 minutes of time doing one thing for yourself in a day can totally, again, we'll use the analogy, fill your cup up, right?
Yeah.
Replenish your energy. You can be the better person for those people in your life. Romantic relationship or as a mom, doesn't matter what situation you're in, right?
Yeah.
But just take even like 5 minutes minimal. If you can do more, that's great, right? Because you matter. And that's when I talk about, you're going to say yes to you. It is doing those things for yourself. And you feel better. You really do. And then with that, you're going to say no to something else, right? So, maybe the only thing you really want to do is have a bath or whatever that night, and the dishes are all sitting there. Well, the dishes are not going anywhere.
Right.
If the dishes are going to make you feel even worse, leave them.
Yeah.
That's a tough one to get around, right?
It is a hard one to get around because I think it feels like when we put ourselves first in those situations, it feels selfish And that's what I've been trying to, because it's taken a lot of work again for me to get to a place where I can say, like, when I go for my walk, I need that walk. Like, I have to go. And if I don't go, I'm going to be a disaster. Like, I need that walk. And Rex is really awesome. I will say this, he is incredible at always making sure, like, you need, and he'll tell me, like, I think you should go for a walk. Not me, and not meaning it like,
No.
like you need to go.
Yeah.
But he does it, like, he's so kind, and he's very like loving and awesome about that. Like, you know, and because we'll go to do something, and I'll say, well, what do you want to do? And he's like, he'll always say, what do you want to do? And I'm like, oh,
it's about you.
Like, I don't know, like, don't make me pick the restaurant, or don't, like, I'll just go. And I have to really stop myself, because that's always been a thing. Don't make me pick the place that we're going, because if it's awful, I don't want to be responsible. So yeah.
Unless there's a place you really want to go to, speak up.
Right. But he has really he has helped me a lot in that, gaining independence and being okay with me doing things on my own. Like,
that's huge.
It's massive, because I literally couldn't be alone in my own house before.
Yeah. Right.
TV on, music on, noise constantly, if nobody was there, to sit and in silence and read a book. Like, kind of weird thing is that? Like, not comfortable with my own self. So that house was busy all the time. And he's helped me get to the other side. I love that quiet sitting, drinking coffee in the morning, doing whatever. Like, I love it now.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a little bit, it's kind of addicting, actually. So,
coffee,
you know.
Is 100%.
Yeah.
But that's great. And it's just having that encouragement from someone else too is helpful, right? And for you to realize that, hey, you know, I am okay with myself. It is okay to take time for myself. This is good for me, right?
Well, and I think especially moms and dads, like, we're not going to leave the dads out of the conversation, because there's a lot of dads out there that are single dads and doing it themselves. And, you know,
you bet.
But I think it's important for them. They've got to you have to, like, reset yourself. Like, you can't just give and give and give and give. And like you say, your cup needs to be filled.
Yes. Yeah.
So I guess another thing would be, maybe in those situations, I don't know, is this kind of setting up a boundary, as like, you determine that, you know, on this day of the week from 7 to 8 p.m., that's my time. I'm going to do this for me.
If that's what that person desires, and that's what they need, is that one specific set time, then, like I said, it's so unique to every individual. It's like I said, I can't really tell people what to do for setting up their boundaries, because they only are the ones that know what those boundaries are. And sometimes it is just, like I said, getting real with yourself, and be truthful in what you need for your own self. Because if you aren't truthful with yourself, you're going to get some other level of something, which you're still going to be disappointed in. And it's just asking continually, maybe what is it I need? What is it I need most right now? What is an integrity to myself? And keep asking the question. And sometimes the answer might be, I don't know, but you do. Deep down inside, there's always an answer. And often it is the first answer that comes to your mind. Go with it. If that's the thing that comes up, write it down, and, you know, take note of it, but keep asking, and it'll just dig deeper and deeper. So like I said, I can't really set up those boundaries for people, but they are the ones that can powerfully answer those questions themselves, for sure.
Right. Yeah. What if there are people in your life who, again, we'll use family members, because when it's friends or acquaintances, it's a little bit different. But with people who have family members who are in the throes of addiction, setting up boundaries in that circumstance, because I know there's a number of people that have that going on, and they are terrified to set a boundary because they're scared for that person, but they have to set that boundary. How do you, what would be something that, you know, how does somebody even begin to think about that?
That is a tough one, because it's that's sort of a whole different territory that, I mean, I personally don't have experience with myself, because there's a lot of different layers to that, as far as what kind of, again, it's sort of individual experience, like what kind of addiction it is, what that person's bringing to your life. You know, every situation is different, right? So yeah, that's a very tough one, Carla, because like I said, there's so many layers to that question that we could be here for hours.
Forever. Yeah.
Again, it's just, sorry, go ahead.
It seems like they all kind of tie, it all kind of always ties in together. Every time these conversations happen, it's like they can go off into another thing, because it all comes back to that. It's all tied together.
Yes, absolutely it is. You bet.
Yeah. It is, that is a tough one. And, you know, I've had a few people that have been on here and talked about, you know, addictions and family members and that type of thing, and just their situations through that. And it's like that boundary, setting that boundary on that person where, you know, whether it's they're asking for money or whatever the situation is, and to set that boundary, that's a hard thing to do.
Yes. I would say yes. And I mean, like I said, I don't have any experience in that myself, but just different things of reading and whatnot, that's often what it comes down to, is talking about that boundary. And it can be really awful to go through, but it's important for both people in that situation, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I think too, they're setting boundaries when people are having kids, and they have family members who want to input and be in there, like, you know, and they think they're helping, and maybe they're not.
Yeah, right.
It's setting, because this is like that person's family. It's my family now, but like everybody wants to have a piece of that, right? So again, it's setting healthy boundaries with those people, and that's going to be hard to do, because that's your family.
Yeah, yes, it is. And yeah, again, it's those tough conversations. I'm just recalling a conversation I did have with somebody about that very, very situation. And they had their spouse's support, and they just sat down and had that conversation. And it was hard. Absolutely, it was, but necessary.
Yeah. Because you don't want to, it's again going into that, you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. Right. But if you don't say anything, and if you don't do the boundary, nobody's going to change. Nobody learns, nobody changes. And you know what? You could say it and they may not accept it.
Right. And truthfully, it's by no fault of their own. They don't probably realize that they're crossing your boundary if nothing's ever said as well, right?
Right.
You know,
because
they're not aware. That's not going to change anything.
Right. Yeah. But this is whether, you know, the people pleasing and the boundaries, if you don't stop the people pleasing and you don't set the boundaries, that resentment is gonna just grow like crazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's see here. We've got Kim Riley said, in my experience with addiction with family members is you have to separate yourself from them until they make better choices and take responsibility for their actions.
Yes, I have heard that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for that response.
Yeah. Thank you, Kim. It's, I think boundaries, you know, people pleasing is kind of it's an old habit that we have to break and make a new good habit out of, and choosing and saying yes to ourselves, even when it feels uncomfortable. It's boundaries to me is the one thing that I think is probably a huge struggle for a lot of people for that, because and I think that ties into that love for yourself. If you don't have
Yes.
that self-confidence, because I sent you something, was it yesterday or the day before? And I said, does this fall into boundaries? And I forget what I even sent you. And you
I
were
don't,
like, no, that goes more into the
coping mechanisms as far as,
right.
yeah, I'll do it myself. Yeah. Again, another conversation. But yeah,
Yeah.
like you said, it's just setting those boundaries and realizing what I guess I come back to this every time. It's just that integrity to yourself. So
Mhm.
asking yourself in any moment, at any time, with anyone, is just what is true for me here and now in this moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so maybe, actually, I was just thinking, we had talked about this before, is if you just play along with me, if I ask some questions in our audience, answer the questions at home, we can just play and see what happens.
Yeah.
If you think of a situation specific to you, Carla, if you don't mind answering the questions,
Yeah.
even is, what is important about yourself showing up in a way that is within integrity to yourself and not falling into that pattern of people pleasing? What would be something important about that to you?
Oh, for me, that means I guess it's important for me to stand up for myself.
Yeah.
I didn't stand up for myself for so long that when I do stand up for myself, I actually am quite proud of myself.
Yeah.
Because I do feel like I get that kind of little bit of like, yeah, I did it.
Yeah.
Because it's when you take a back seat and you don't stand up for yourself, you don't think you're worthy to stand up for yourself.
That's
So
right.
when you finally get to a point, and I believe everybody gets to that point, like my point was, I always said, it felt like something inside of me literally broke. Like I felt like a snap, and I don't mean snap like I went crazy.
No.
I mean like it was in my chest. Like I felt like it snapped, and I couldn't do it anymore. Like I cannot do this anymore.
Yeah.
And so when I do have, and it's not just personally, it's in business too. Like,
oh, huge.
Standing up for oneself in business.
Especially a service-based business, if you're in any service-based industry.
Yeah. And doing that with integrity and doing it the right way. And not, like I recently said this to somebody that I have done some work with and have worked with in the past. I said, you know what? Because there's a situation happening where it was kind of not a good situation. And I said, this is where we take the high road. We do not respond to that behavior, and we focus on what is good, and we keep going.
Yes.
Because that garbage, whatever it is, and it happens in business regardless, because business has always been kind of the old mentality of business, in my opinion, is that it's been this place where it's all about war. Like you got to go to battle, you got to be, and I will not buy into that.
No, that's right.
I will never buy into that, because there's room for everybody. I don't care what industry you're in, everybody's got space. So it can be done with kindness, and it can be done the right way, and it can be done strongly, but you don't need to battle.
No, and I mean, everybody, even if we did the exact same thing, we're unique people. We're going to do things differently, and who we are, and what you do might resonate, or what we both do, but more people might resonate with you or me or whatever be the case. So there, like you said, there's room for everybody, for sure.
Yeah. You don't need to take out your competitor. Focus on yourself, like, because what they're doing, that's their business. Focus on what you're doing. So sometimes in business, I've had to and it always is centered around money. This is the struggle, is always money, and asking for, setting up that this is what that's going to cost, and not saying, oh, I'll just do that for you for nothing. It's all good. I've got you. Done that a million times and gone, yes, that is, in certain situations, I have no problem doing that. Sometimes I've done that a little bit too much, where it's been like, I don't know why I'm doing that, actually. Why am I giving away what I do for free?
And because you're pleasing a business, you know, it's that pleasing
Yeah.
role, right?
And to set a number on what I do, that to me is so uncomfortable, because it's like,
Yes.
oh God,
Yes.
I hate that conversation so much.
Yes. That is a tough conversation. And even for somebody like myself in the roles that I do, right?
Mhm.
And if you really think about the value you give, right?
Mhm.
And placing value in what you have to offer, and it's placing that value in your own self and that trust in your own self
Right.
and that worth in yourself and what you have to offer as a service, right? Like
Yeah.
that is somewhere great to explore in anybody who does any business like that. Like I said, it's service-based business. What do I charge, right?
Well, and the
Yeah.
thing is too, when I started standing firm in that pricing,
Yeah.
people didn't even quit. It was me that had the problem with it. It wasn't
Yeah.
anybody else. They're like, oh yeah, no, that's no problem.
Yeah.
Oh, I've been stressing about this for like however long. And it's the silliest thing, because it's myself having self-doubt. Like, am I really
Yeah.
worth that much?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like, am I worth
Absolutely.
that dollar amount? And it's like,
Yeah.
when you start
Yeah.
factoring in your time,
Yes.
what you do, all of the things, yeah, you're
Yeah.
definitely worth whatever that number is. So
Exactly. Right.
yeah,
But then, like you said, that doubt comes up and it's like, well, who am I to charge that? Yeah, right.
right. Yes, very
Yes,
much so.
it's you can't give you, like you said, you can't give yourself away for free either.
That's right. So Penny said, asking for the sale when it is your business is harder than when you are representing someone else's company. Penny, oh my gosh, yes, because it's not your response. You didn't set the price. If you're with somebody else, I didn't, like, that's just what we charge. And
Yeah.
like, I get that. It
Well, and
is
plus, look
easier.
at a business like that where oftentimes it's not really what you're selling, but it's like who you're being in that selling too, right? Like I said, one person might resonate with you, one might not. You know, so there's more beyond just what you're selling. It's
Right.
putting yourself out there in those tough and uncomfortable positions. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just the way
And
it is.
it's, you have to be vulnerable enough to get out there and I had this conversation with somebody who sent me a copy and pasted message. She was about the 50th person who sent me a message, and it was from different page, like, they go through, a lot of people go through, like, if you're following a well-known person, they'll go through and, I saw you on the blah 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 page, and they send the same scripted thing, and I answer every single one of those messages.
Oh, do you? Yeah.
I do, because I'm like, I appreciate you reaching out to me, but here's something I think that might help you. Make that message yourself about you. Like, send the message, but like, make it, people are buying from you because of who you are.
Yeah.
They're not even buying, it's not even necessarily, in some cases it might be the product, but it's not necessarily even the product. They're buying from you because they know you resonate with them. It's about you. And you got to get in front of that camera. You got to do those things that are uncomfortable. And I wanted to say to you, you have done incredible on your stories and on, like, your posts every day. Like, your posts are awesome. They always have been. But like, your what was it? Reels on Instagram, incredible. You've done awesome.
Thank you. Yes, it's doing those uncomfortable things, 100%.
Yeah.
And it's not even that, but just, I guess, just showing up for yourself in that way, right?
Yeah.
And being okay with that vulnerability, and you know, being okay with putting yourself out there. Yeah.
Right.
But thank you.
Yeah. No, I was gonna say, I meant to send you that message, but it was like, you've done so good. Like, it's so awesome to see that when I see people progress. And there's Penny and Gina too. They've knocked it out of the park on their stories and what they're doing. Like, I just love seeing that from the beginning to now where people are at. It's so cool to see that. That lights me up, because it's like, yes,
Good.
keep going.
Right.
I love it. But
and that can come back. I know we've kind of steered off a little bit, but that can
Yes.
even come back to that whole people pleasing thing, is worrying about what other people think. And
Right.
coming to that realization that, you know what, no matter what you do, there's always going to be somebody that isn't going to like it. And that's just the way it is, you know, so you can't let that stop you in doing the things that mean the most to you.
Right. And I guess that, yeah, worrying about other people's opinions, that does fall into that, doesn't it?
A little bit. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And that
Sure.
is, yeah, again, getting strong enough within yourself to say, and again, I'm usually pretty good at that, but it depends where it comes from for me. If it's coming from somebody that I know really, really well, and I get this like not nice thing or a critique or whatever, it's like you take it a different way than if it's like an acquaintance or somebody you don't know very well, right? It's just a different.
It is. It's a new, different level of that uncomfortable, and yeah, for sure it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
You betcha.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so
that was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a question for you, and it's gone now. It's good.
Were gonna you had mentioned you were gonna ask us all some. Did you want the coaching thing? So we'll kind of end it that way, and I think we will put in the comments where everybody can find you, of course, like all your Instagram and everything. We'll put that in the comments. But yeah, you wanted to ask all of us some questions.
just a couple questions, just easy to answer questions. So I guess if anybody has experienced people pleasing and they want to show up differently for themselves and want to be in integrity with what's a yes to them, is if they can think of one word or phrase, even just to describe how they want to show up from this point moving forward in, you know, in those situations, we'll say, you know, like an example of like an I am statement, like I will show up in this way, or I am, or this is what, does that make sense? I don't know. That's a great question to answer, just to kind of check in with their own integrity and what is a good yes for them. So what is a word or phrase that will, I guess, describe how they want to show up in that situation?
Does
that make sense?
Yeah.
It is a good one.
That's very good.
And sometimes, having said that, is we have to, if we want to show up in that way, we have to realize those little things we might need to let go of a little bit. And so that could be the next question is what will I need to let go of in order to show up in that way? What idea or thought, belief, anything, what do I need to let go of to show up in that way? Yeah.
Have you had that experience where people are afraid to write that down? They're like, that's a scary thing to like, even to admit and think about, because if you're deep enough into not putting yourself first, to actually sit there and think about that, that's a scary place to be.
Yeah. Again, I would just suggest just to be gentle with yourself, and just because you're thinking about it, you know, not giving yourself that judgment, right? And in what your answer might be, and just sitting with it and exploring it. I mean, there's no harm in that at all, by any means, right? So, just a couple quick questions, a couple thinkers, and just I guess to leave you with what is that true yes to yourself? And like I said before in our conversation, is just keep asking that question. What is the right move for me? What is right for me in this moment? You know, when you start to say, like you said, you sense the emotion of like, no, I know, like, I just can't, you just reach that point. But even before you get there, you know, those sensations and thoughts will come. It's just, what is the right thing for me right now? What is a yes to myself? And how am I going to say yes to myself in this moment? Yeah. That is a great way to wrap this up. You have always asked those questions. And like you said in the beginning, you ask the questions, but I mean, the questions you ask, they might seem like they're not like, that's just a simple question, but it's like, they're simple, but they're like, ooh, if I really have to think about that, it takes you into a different level of
where
Yeah.
you, what you're thinking about, not just that kind of, we're on autopilot thinking. You go
Absolutely.
deeper. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I guess that is the purpose of those questions, is to just sit and explore with yourself, a few different answers. And yeah. And like I think I also mentioned before, sometimes that, I don't know. Well, we do actually know. We just have to keep asking the question.
Yes.
and being okay in our own vulnerability in it.
Right. Yeah.
No, if you're writing them down, nobody else needs to see them. Burn them, flush them, whatever you do.
You know what? That's the thing. I think it's like, it's that scary thing to write it down, but once you do, there's this like weight. It's kind of,
Yeah.
there's that sense of freedom. And you'll, whether, like you say, burn it, rip it up, throw it away, like do whatever you want with it. But if you keep it and you go back, like after a little while, and you go back and read that, you'll be blown away by what's happened after you've written that down.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I was just thinking, when I asked the question is like, how do I want to show up in this way? Is just thinking, I mean, we could go into a real coaching conversation, which we won't, but it's just kind of taking yourself through that and how it feels to be on the other side. What is it going to feel like when you get there, or when you are in integrity with yourself? What kind of thoughts and feelings are going to come behind that? And if you can kind of put yourself in that situation and how it feels on the other side, it's just that much easier. And that comes with practice too. And like I said, we won't have a whole coaching conversation about it, but it is just sort of thinking about that person and who you want to be. So yeah.
Right. How do people get a hold of you if they are interested in doing some coaching with you?
Well, certainly online on Instagram. I do have a website. We can attach it in the comments as well, with got all of my contact information. Like I said, on Facebook, Lotus Coaching, my personal page, my Instagram, any of those places. Yeah. Or if you know me personally, Facebook message is good.
Right.
I like it too. It's handy. Yeah.
That's right.
And sometimes having that conversation, I mean, it doesn't mean it has to be a whole coaching experience. It's just having that conversation and asking those questions. And there's no harm in that.
Yeah. I just read a comment here. Eric Qualls, I will send you a message when this is over. So, yeah. Anyways, yes, Penny, Penny said, I need to break the mental seal.
Yes. Good job, Penny. That's true for a lot of people, right? We get up here in our brains and it's easy to do.
Very true. All right. I think thank you so much, Lori. It's always a pleasure having you on. Everything you do is so incredible.
Thank you.
Yeah. And thank you for everything that you've done behind the scenes for me.
You're very welcome.
Very helpful. I appreciate it. And so, when you do your classes in Watrous, what day and what time? The kettlebell
kickboxing classes?
Yes.
Well, the actual class itself is full. That's Thursday nights, but I do some pretty early morning ones and some evening ones, and I'm kind of all over the map every day of the week. So yeah.
So they can just message you and get that information.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Awesome.
Definitely.
All right. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for the comments. There are comments on here. We'll go back and go through them and stuff. But yeah. And I appreciate again. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Carla. I was just going to mention, I could, if I remember the questions I asked, I'm sure I can even just type them in the comments if somebody wants to go back and kind of come back to those questions. And I wanted to say again, thank you for sharing your birthday with me. It's an honor. And thank you as well for having these conversations with different individuals. Because when we have those conversations, people can always take something away from them. Definitely. And that's great. Right.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Thank you.
And it was a privilege to share my birthday with you. This was like I said before we went live, I said, this is kind of a gift. This is a perfect gift because I need this conversation the most probably. So I appreciate it. But anyways,
you put the work away and go do something for yourself today.
I know. I got to figure out what I'm going to do.
It doesn't have to be big.
No, it
doesn't
sure
have to be a
doesn't.
big rah-rah.
The sun's out. That's all I care. So it'll all be good.
Right.
We'll figure something out. But all right, you guys,
Okay.
thank you all so much. I appreciate you guys that tune in every week when we do these. You guys are awesome. Thank you again, Lori. I appreciate you. And we will see you all next time. I don't know if we've got one next week, but next time we
All
are
right,
live.
everybody.
We'll catch you soon.